Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Legacy Leaders. Today, Scott McMeans is joined by Devin Cotton of Universal Basic Employment. Interesting concept. I think it is one of the coolest things I've heard as far as how we can help people get from kind of that area of not knowing where their next step is to getting them to where they need to go and using the available funds that the government has to really help people through a transition of welfare to employment. Devin, I don't want to do it any more justice than you can. I know you're much better at this than I am. So I'm going to turn the microphone and this camera over to you and explain a little bit about yourself, explain what UBE is all about, and then we'll just continue the conversation. So tell us who you are. Tell us about
No,
yourself.
I appreciate that, Scott. This is awesome to be a part of this conversation, and I look forward to all that we dive into and see where we go from here. The intro call and our prep call was fun, so I'm excited to see what we get to put on camera and share with other folks. So, yeah, as you mentioned, Universal Basic Employment. I'm the founder and CEO, and I started this work 3 years ago. And our mission is to demonstrate that a federal jobs guarantee policy can eliminate poverty and be a stop payment on its many symptoms. We do this by developing the nation's first jobs guarantee pilot, where we subsidize the employment and salary for 100 under and unemployed Clevelanders for 3 years to prove that a federal jobs guarantee policy is a simultaneous investment in people, place, and business. At a very practical level, UBE reimagines a world where a single mother with two kids can walk down the street, any Cleveland street, and go to work at her local grocery store, childcare center, nonprofit organization, church, or anything like that, and make what we call the autonomous wage of $50,000. And that $50,000 allows that single mother to walk back up the street to a home that she owns because now her salary positions her to be part of the full economy and full participant in our economy and society and have access to the wonderful credit tools of a mortgage, credit card, auto loans, and different things like that. So that she can buy a home. Additionally, so that private firms now recognize her and her neighbors with the ability to buy groceries locally, be able to pay for internet locally and do different things like that. And the private sector now has an incentive and interest in solving the symptoms of poverty. What we're trying to do is demonstrate what it means for government to shift investments from reactive responses to a proactive solution that dignifies historically low wage work, reinvigorates the local tax base, closes the wealth gap, and restores agency and dignity back to the nearly 41 million Americans that are currently living in poverty and or part of the working poor.
I love this. Okay. So much to digest, right? There's a lot there. But I think what's interesting, the autonomous wage, eliminate poverty, and what the last point you made, which is the point that I think really drew me into our conversation last time, was a proactive approach to solving a problem as opposed to a reactionary approach to solving a problem.
Mhm.
One thing that I think you and I and everyone watching will agree, the United States government is notoriously bad at being proactive. They just don't know how to do it, right? So you have an uphill battle, my friend, but I think it's worthwhile to fight this battle because your data shows, as most people understand, if you proactively go after a problem and you can fix it before it becomes a problem, the results not only are linearly better, but they start at a sooner point. So they can be a trajectory that leads to better success, longer success, and a higher level of success at an earlier part in the timeline.
Yeah.
So I'm a big believer in whatever we can do to solve a problem before it gets to be a problem is exactly what we need to be doing. So
Yeah.
this is UBE, and what you've started is exceptional in getting the mindset one changed over from let's stop trying to help people after, let's get them away from the problem before it even starts.
Exactly.
And eliminating poverty is not going to be an easy task, but this solution, in my mind, Devin, puts people in a better position to be self-fulfilling as
Mhm.
opposed to self-destructive.
Yeah, inherently, people want to be the because of in their own story. And fundamentally, in the same way that you and I do every single day, people want to get up and people do get up and go to work every single day and work really, really hard. Sometimes they just don't get paid enough. Sometimes there's systemic and larger issues that are far outside of their control why going to work isn't an advantageous option or why that opportunity isn't available. And what UBE is a solution that gives refuge to that inherent desire to get up and go to work and have the means and have the resources to take care of their needs and wants and navigate them just like anyone and everyone else. And so we're creating a bipartisan solution that gives refuge to the efforts of people, and rewards the efforts of folks that inherently, again, as everyone wants to do, get up and go to work every single day and make enough money to navigate their needs and wants.
That's interesting. I just wrote this note. UBE, it's the desire to help people get their own desire to be productive. That's what you're doing, right?
Hmm.
You're eliminating the opportunity to be a victim, for lack of a better word, and you're pushing them to be, okay, go follow your desires because now you have the not the freedom, Devin, because I want you to explain how the program works because
Yeah.
I'm working off of that in my head, right?
Hmm.
But there is an opportunity for somebody to make a living wage, as you said, the autonomous wage, $50,000.
Yeah.
And once they get that, and that's my note, right? The desire to help people find their desire to be productive. Because nobody wants to not be productive. People want to be a part of a productive means, whether it's their own
Hmm.
part of the world or they want to be productive to help other people. So
Yeah.
as a society, we're a very socially driven animal. That's just who
Yeah.
we are.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to be the lump on the log that just sits there and does nothing. They want to contribute.
Yeah.
But if you have so many barriers in front of you, you can't contribute. So let's get rid of those barriers. And the one barrier I want you to explain is the baker or the bakery example you gave me when we talked, because I think it really articulates how this works.
Yeah.
I'll give you the floor because I want you to explain this to people.
No, I appreciate you teeing that question up. And you really make a good point that um work is more than a paycheck. It is that valued social creation. It's community, it's teamwork. It's the ability to say, "Hey, I made this or I did this or I moved this problem from X to Y and I solved someone's, as when a customer service standpoint, I was able to deliver a food service or I was able to provide a service that solved a problem for someone. And, that stuff inherently makes people feel good. And it's something that, as you said, universally we all share. We all share that desire to do those things. And I like to put a finer point on the $50,000 number and where it came from. And so $50,000 is what we call the autonomous wage in UBE. $50,000 comes from the Atlanta Federal Reserve benefit calculator. And so some really, really smart people down at the Atlanta Federal Reserve put together a tool that allows you to see what number allows an individual of multiple family compositions, but we're particularly working on a single head of household with two kids to bridge past the use of most social safety net benefits. And so here in Cuyahoga County, we're going to keep that child care one in place because whether you make $20,000 or $120,000, child care can be pretty pricey. So we're going to keep the child care one in place, but for an individual to bridge past the use of most social safety net benefits, that number here in Cuyahoga County is $50,000. And so, as you said, the giving a real life example of what a UB scenario looked like. So, say there's a small local bakery in one of our West Side communities like Old Brooklyn or one of our East Side communities like Huff. There's a small local bakery that has five people participating in what we hope to be future state or federal legislation. They make the business case to the government to say, hey, I do $1 million a year in revenue. In order for me to do that, I need a couple of delivery drivers, I need a couple of bakers, and someone to run the counter. That's five people. They would receive $250,000 from the government to pay those what we call the autonomous salary. So again, that $250,000 using the existing infrastructure for our government has that's sends money to businesses for equipment and different things like that. How come we can't do the same thing and where we subsidize people by way of work, where now they have the salary necessary that allows them to eliminate the symptoms of poverty that show up in their lives. So now they have the childcare infrastructure in place. Now they have the ability to have access to credit and to be able to go get a car loan or be able to have stabilized housing through a mortgage and things like that. Additionally, while the headlines are often dominated by the symptoms of poverty that show up in individuals' lives, the symptoms of poverty also show up in the workplace. No call, no show due to childcare transportation is
Mhm.
the symptom of low wages. Uh, the poor customer service is often a symptom of low wages. Unmotivated workforce, employee turnover, those are symptoms of low wages. And so, how do we support small business, particularly small and Main Street businesses that want to make the investment, they want to support their employees, but they just don't have the capacity or capital to do so, or they need to add capacity and capital from personnel and different things like that. So, how do we support the Main Street business? To do that. And then additionally, how do we expand what we call the employment seats available? How do we have the local church be able to hire an individual that may have a felonious background or may have additional caring for elderly adults and family members in different types of that needs like that. So while they're productive and they have desire to work, hey, mom also needs me, and I need to be able to, walk back up the street or, jump in my car real quick when mom gives me a call, because she needs me or something along those lines. So how can we explain the employment opportunities? And how can we unlock economic prosperity for the nearly 200,000 Clevelanders that are currently dealing with that are shouldering the burdens of poverty, and the nearly 41 million Americans that are across our country that are shouldering that burden as well?
This is okay, a lot of math that you just listed out, which is fine. And I want to get back to that, but there's an interest here in doing this in Cleveland,
Hmm.
and ultimately you want to tap into the infrastructure or the system that is the federal government to have this go across the country from
Yeah.
major city to major city. Um, just going back to the baker thing, because if I remember right from our conversation, the bakery will get $50,000 per employee so they can
Yep.
pay them.
Hmm.
And the number that they normally would have been able or had available capital during their payment of human resources,
Yep.
whatever that would normally be, that could be used for healthcare benefits, child care, so on and so forth. So
Yep.
somebody can make a salary through the bakery of
Yep.
$50,000, and the
Yep.
bakery's contribution to this shared program is they now have, instead of paying somebody the total 50,000, they're paying them what they normally would, but that money goes earmarked to give them benefits, help pay for their child care, help them do other things. Therefore, the combined value of the UBE autonomous salary isn't just 50,000, it's 50,000 plus whatever the business that applies can
Yep.
contribute.
Yeah,
So it's a
that's a
bigger number.
a
Yeah.
great point. And yeah, we asked our employee partners to, and how we envision this in the future is to redirect the wages that you're currently spending. So that 13, 14, $15 an hour that you're already paying, we asked you to redirect those wages to what we call job quality benefits. So not only do we have a wage issue in our country that we're trying to solve, we have a job quality issue. Particularly a number of businesses and outfits aren't paying benefits, not because they're bad actors or they don't want to. They just don't have the capital or resources to do it.
Mhm.
And also, you can think of employment opportunities, particularly in our care industry. So think about our certified nursing assistants or our home health aides, that they work 20 hours a week for 123 home health aide, and then they work another 25 hours a week for X, Y, and Z home health aide. And both employers are looking at each other and saying, "Hey, you're not my full-time employee, so I'm not going to cover your benefits." Again, not because they don't want to, just because, hey, I'm only covering 25 hours of your time. And so how do we give those benefits that have historically been void of our low wage employees? And I always say low wage employees because there isn't a low skill job that takes place. Every job in the world is a high skill job, and it is a real job. But jobs that have historically been low wage, how do we support those jobs that have been void of opportunities like benefits, PTO, FMLA? If you are a full-time cashier, if you're a full-time server, that is a hard job and it's a real job. And say you get pregnant, you know what I mean? You don't have the
Mhm.
PTO time or the FMLA time to do that, or you're caring for a child that has particular needs, or you're caring for a loved one that has a parent, aging parent that has particular needs. And your business and the place that you go to work to every single day for 40 hours a week, or sometimes 40 plus hours a week in a day, not only is it not paying you enough, you don't have the benefits available to navigate your full spectrum of your life. How do we use the existing business infrastructure and supports from the government to put that opportunity in front of folks?
Yeah. Again, this is a much better solution than being retroactive or reactionary to it. We're as far as I gather it, Devin.
Yeah.
You're putting people in a position to be successful before they fail.
Yeah, I always like to equate it to bowling. It's exponentially cheaper and more effective to have people bowl with bumpers than it is to try to pull people out of, not knocking down some pins. You know what
I'll
I
tell you
mean?
what, I am an exceptional bowler when the bumpers are up.
When the
I'm really
bumpers
good at
are
it.
up, and it didn't cost that much to put the bumpers up. And again, we're just using existing infrastructure that already exists where, we see
Yeah,
opportunities where other places where bumpers happen. And in a capitalistic world, um, when we have the opportunity to unlock in the Cleveland context, 200 additional taxpayers, 200,000 additional taxpayers, 200,000 potential homeowners. 200,000 individuals that have the ability to contribute via sales tax, and different things like that. I think that's an important piece in our world, and people that are able to buy the trinkets, the things, the whatever, have the able to buy a house and put a bunch of stuff in it. In our world, in the cycle that we live in, that is how this world exists, and that's how folks are able to effectively
yeah,
contribute, whether you make $500,000 or $50, that is the contribution mechanism that we have today.
yeah. And clarifying the point, no additional monies you're looking for. It's just reallocating the money that's already in the system,
Yeah,
right? I want people to understand that because when we were talking originally, I'm like, okay, how much is this going to cost? You like,
yeah,
it's we're looking at from a UBE perspective, you're looking at it from how much money is already in the system. And instead of doing it on the back end, let's push the money up front so they never get to that back end position where they need the money.
yeah,
So it's just reallocating what's already there, which is, in my mind, the reason why this program has legs to stand on and will
yep,
be running rather quickly.
yep.
So let me ask you, Devin, what is it that you need from the community, whether it's the private sector or the public sector? What do you need to get this to the next level?
Yeah, no, it's been an amazing partnership. So we are a social innovation partner of the United Way of Greater Cleveland. So, we have a big supporting organization there that helps us with the infrastructure. We have amazing supporter and advisory committee of 16 local and national leaders that are helping us bring this innovation forward, particularly with major support from folks like Councilwoman Stephanie House Jones, Ken Sarati United Way, as well as national voices of I'm sorry, additional local voices like Jeff Respy and different folks like that, and some national voices like Dr. Derek Hamilton and Pavlina Chernerva, who are working on the national level around the jobs guarantee movement. And so, what we're looking to today is we're finding, I think, I'll parse it out from the nonprofit philanthropic side, from the business community, and then as well from government. Is that from the nonprofit community side is in philanthropy is, Cleveland has been first to do so many things. I mean, we're the first community with a community foundation, the EPA, different things like that. So how do we, support another innovation coming out of Cleveland and another opportunity for Cleveland to be the national leader in solving some of the biggest problems that plague our country and our world. So providing the resources and the partnership to bring this innovation to fruition. From the business community side, it's being able to walk alongside some businesses to test this solution within their particular outfit. To say like, hey, let's get inside here and look inside your business and see what is your lowest employment class and what would it mean for your business if we were to bump those wages up for that particular employment class. What would that mean for your other positions? How does that support some of the symptoms that you are quantifying or not quantifying right now, the symptoms of poverty that are currently existing. And then from the government side, and the Councilwoman Stephanie House Jones, was a huge supporter and spearheader in us making Cleveland the first city in the country to pass jobs guarantee legislation this past May. So Cleveland was the first city in the country to again kind of put on the books what it means to go down this pathway. But again, it's working with government and being in partnership with government again to talk about what does it mean to make that shift from reactive to proactive spending. And I don't want to make the mistake of disqualifying the history of our country. We've done this a number of times of what does it mean to spend on the front end, to ensure that um, proactively that, other things don't happen. You know what I mean? The
Sure.
government every day invests X number of dollars, and our social safety net benefits is an example of that. It's a lot cheaper to pay, X number of billions of dollars in social safety net benefits because you don't want to see people going hungry and poor, or homeless, and different
Right.
things like that. This is just another iteration of that long-term investment of thinking on the front end in opposed to the back end.
No, I can appreciate that clarification, Devin. And the way I've always looked at any problem, and again, United States from a variety of different spaces has had a hard time being proactive in solving it before it becomes a problem. Now that we know data the way we do,
Hmm.
and we can see the trend, the first thing we should be looking at is, or how do we stop it before it gets to point X?
Yep.
Right? And you're stepping in and saying, well, I've got this whole infrastructure built out. All we need to do is get people to partner up with us. We can do this.
Yep.
And we can showcase not only does it work, but it works incredibly well to keep people away from that outcome we don't want to have. Let's get them going because, and this is what's going to be, I don't know, mind blowing, but think of it this way. Instead of waiting for that money to be used on the back end, we give
Hmm.
that money to people up front. They start spending, as you said, their money on the trinkets and things they want to do to fill their house.
Yep.
Now the economy doesn't just revolve around X amount of people, it's X amount of people plus how many people are in this program. And now it gets a bigger, faster trajectory, like I said earlier. Start it sooner so the trajectory line looks better and it's steeper than waiting to the end.
Yep.
And
No.
it's a better use of money.
Yeah.
That's why I see it.
And you're spot on. You know what I mean? There are swaths of land not only here in Northeast Ohio, but across the country that are unused that we can unlock. There are
Mhm.
potential, there are ideas, there are people, there are dreams, there's aspirations that UBE has the ability to give refuge to, and give rocket fuel to. I always believe that if a parent has a UBE salary, the child probably wouldn't have one. And there's a story, I can't remember which CEO this is, but long story short, his father was a janitor, and then he birthed the CEO of, through the fact that the father's janitor salary provided enough infrastructure to provide a living wage to take care of the needs and wants and buy a house and have quality of life to send his son to college. Became a Fortune 500 CEO, and then from there, the CEO births a ballerina. You know what I mean? And so with that stabilized
Yeah.
income from a janitor, you get this family legacy and history, that is truly beautiful. And so how can we do the exact same thing where that
Yeah.
my fundamental belief is that if we were to give a parent a UBE salary and UBE job, the likelihood of that child needing that same opportunity is exponentially lower, by comparison to some of the other investments that we're currently making.
And to me, that's smart money,
Mhm.
right? I would imagine there's going to be a number of CEOs that are listening to what you have to say and they're going to want to partner up with you. So my expectation is by putting your linked information in the description below, we'll get you some connections.
Oh, that's
Um,
awesome.
yeah, absolutely. One of the things that you kind of touched on, and I want to make sure we do talk about, because I'm a firm believer in this, and if you've ever been to one of my educational programs, I bring this up a lot,
Yep.
and that is this. The CEO has a very important job. The janitor has a very important job. They are both on the same level.
Hmm.
Okay, if I can do this right. They're both on the same level. The reason I say that is the CEO cannot have an investor meeting or meetings with clients or potential clients in an office that looks like garbage because it was never cleaned.
Yep.
And the janitor won't have anything to clean unless the CEO is able to do his job effectively. So
100%.
they do two completely different jobs, but none of their jobs is more important than the other one.
Hmm.
Okay. So think of it that way when you're talking about the type of organization you want to work with. The organization you want to work with from a UBE perspective is an organization that gets that very point.
Yep.
Because those are the people that are going to, one, appreciate somebody being on their team that they can help. And two, when they bring that person on, they know they're going to help them be a better CEO,
Yeah.
right? Because I'm a big believer in stop looking down at somebody because they have a job title that's different than yours at a different level, because everybody contributes. Now, granted, the compensation is much different, fully unaware of, I am fully aware of that, and
Yeah,
rightfully so, because they're different skills and they're different things to do. But if you are an accountant and you don't do your job, who's paying the bills?
exactly.
If you're a salesman, you're not doing your job. Who's buying your product?
Yep,
Right? If you're on a production line and you're slacking off, well, who's making that product?
yep,
So everybody has their own piece to complete the train that goes from one to the next station. So everybody wins.
yep.
I'm a big believer in that. So I really hope when you reach out and talk to different organizations, the organizations that say yes are those types of organizations led by people that understand my job is no more important than anybody else's. We just all contribute to the same overall goal.
And you're spot on. And those are the folks that we want to work with. And particularly where you find those folks is on Main Street. It
Yeah.
is in the small business owners that are often filling in on the shop floor when there's a call off. It's the
Yeah.
the son of the second generation owner that did that job and now, is running the company. So understands what it means to be there. And in the business owners that I talk to, and I'm thinking of a fourth generation company that I have a good relationship with, and we've talked about this work well, is that they in 99.9% of small business owners and Main Street business owners inherently want to pay their folks enough money. They're
Yeah.
like, hey, I want to make this investment. I've tried to make this investment. I'm every day I'm waking up thinking, how do I pay my folks more? Out of their own self-interest in the self-interest of the business of that if I pay my folks more, they're going to get back here on Monday. They're going to produce more for me. I can do more. I can take on that second contract. I can bring on that additional client. But inherently, it's also to your point around this social connection of us as all as humans. We're all connected. Like it doesn't make me feel good to pull into the parking lot in the morning with a very nice car and my employee is either struggling to get there and riding on a bicycle if by
Hmm.
riding unless they're doing it by choice, you know what I mean, or having to catch
Yeah.
multiple buses, unless that's just their desire to do that. Like it doesn't feel good, you know what I mean? Inherently, most owners and business owners and decision makers feel that, you know what I mean? It doesn't feel good to do that to have that dynamic with their employees, and they're working every single day to try to figure that out. And this is a solution to give refuge and to give some rocket fuel to those small business and Main Street businesses to do that.
Yeah.
Exactly.
The mindset of the people involved in this has to be aligned from start to finish, top to bottom, and side to side. You need the right people to be involved in this. Otherwise, I see it being corruptible
Hmm.
in such a way that people won't want to be a part of it or take advantage of it. And that's not what we want. We want to make this a very streamlined and effective process.
Yep.
Okay.
100%.
We've talked a lot here. I think we've battered on and on for about half an hour, which is great. I love it.
Yeah.
Um, what's the best business lesson that you think people should learn that you've had a chance to learn and you'd like to explain to others?
Yeah, I would say it comes from our board court chair from a very good friend of mine who I worked with in community development, and now serves as the co-chair of our organization right now is Jeff Respi. Um, uh, just do it and do it now. I think for me personally, I'm a perfectionist at heart, and so I'm always trying to look for the best way and with the perfect timing and perfect partnership and all these other types of things. And his push to me to go out and do UBE full time, and give up my salary and all these other types of things, my employment and community development was that he was like, your soul's not going to rest until you explore this
Mm.
opportunity, and you can always find another job. And so I think constantly a reminder, and it's so funny, it ties back to a lesson that my dad always used to say to me. It was like I would always give this soliloquy of thoughts that I had. And he's like, yeah, all that makes sense if we were a bunch of perfect people in a bunch in a perfect world, but we're not. So sometimes you just have to go out there and do things. And I think the action over inaction is always more the lesson that I've always harped on and been reminded of that. If you put good things out there, the market will find you.
Hmm.
And action is rewarded opposed to inaction.
I think that's a phenomenal way of putting it. I'm always a big believer in when you put your value out in front and people accept it and want it, the money comes after. And it's
Yeah.
always a vacuum that gets filled because you're doing the right thing and people connect to you. I'm a big believer, and I work with a lot of my clients on what's your vision for the business, what's your mission that you want to accomplish, and what level of culture do you want your business to look, feel, and act like.
Yep.
When you have that, you attract the right people to come work with you
Hmm.
and the right people that want to buy from you. And that is the ultimate reward because you're doing what's you inherently, and you
Hmm.
just get a chance to stretch it out. I like that.
Yeah.
I have one last question for you, Deb.
Of course.
I'm going to put you in a time machine
Yes.
and send you back, and you're going to meet 18-year-old Devin Cotton. You're going to
Okay.
sit. You're going to
He might
sit down
he
on a
might be
time.
disappointed.
No. So you sit down on a park bench. What's the
Yeah.
18-year-old Devin and the current day Devin talk about?
Oh man. I think we laugh a lot. 18-year-old Devin, current Devin is a jokester. And 18-year-old Devin was even more of a jokester. So there's probably a lot of laughter that happens initially. Um, but I tell 18-year-old Devin and we talk about I truly believe there's a line from I can't remember the name of the song, but it's a Jay-Z line. It's a verse from a song that Jay-Z did that says he was talking about the birth of his first child at the time, and well, Blue now, who is a real person in the world, but
Yeah.
um, I think it was more so he was talking to I think a son, but more so he was just saying that my only job is to cut your time in half. So he's like, it took me 18 years to find my path or something like that. My only job is, or 30 years to find my path. My only job is to cut your time in half. So if I'm looking at 18-year-old Devin, I'm cutting his time in half. And so I'm 34 now, and I think I was 30 when I started UBE. So I'm cutting that 12 years out for Devin so that he would be 24 at the time that he starts UBE opposed to being 30 at the time that he starts UBE.
Love it.
Yeah.
Cut your time in half. That's a really good goal.
Yeah.
That's a really good conversation too. It's
Yeah.
funny how many different varieties of the same thing I get when I ask that question.
Oh yeah. What are
Everybody
some
said
of
they all say the same thing. You're the first one who said there'd probably be a lot of laughter, which is great. But most of them say same thing. Oh wow, great question. Okay, don't sit around and wait for somebody else. Go out and pursue what you want to pursue. Do it. Don't waste any time. Follow your passion. And you're the first one that invoked it a Jay-Z lyric. I give you that.
the? Okay.
But conceptually, Devin, you made the aligned comment that everybody else does, which is stop screwing around
Hmm.
and go find your passion and pursue it. So cut your time in half to me means don't waste your time on things that aren't going to make any difference. Go focus on what you can make an impact on and do
Yeah.
it as soon as possible. So thank you for that. This
And,
is
and
good.
and it's one of the things I share a lot with young people that I engage with. It's not often I get a chance to do it, but particularly with cousins and things like that. I think sometimes, particularly in our world of a social media based world, is that a lot of times people are aspiring to, this optics of whatever, opposed to, just following their path of, whether that be pressure from family or whether it be pressure from
Mhm.
parents or other people of what you think you should be doing or what is the in vogue thing or the cool thing to do. I always laugh. It's a lot of times where I ask people or you hear people or younger folks and they're like, "Man, I want to be in business." And it's like, "Well, what does that mean?" You know what I mean? And one of the best lessons I've ever gotten and was find the problem you've fallen in love with. Um, and to quote someone else is I'm paraphrasing a Kobe Bryant speech, if you will, was that he was like a lot of people enjoy playing basketball of like they enjoy the fanfare, the money, the love, this, then the third. But they don't fall in love with the problem. You know what I mean? And I can't remember, and I actually don't think that's Kobe, but he talks about this, but it's someone else that I'm forgetting who it is, but the quote is essentially fall in love with the problem. You know what I mean? Fall in love with the
Mhm.
because people love solutions and people get really excited that like, oh, I made the new trinket that does it that this, then the third. Like, what's the problem? Does it solve a problem or is it marginally better than what we currently have in the marketplace? And the market will tell you that that's not really a
Uh,
solution. But if you fall in love with the problem and you start there and anchor there and continuously every single day fall in love with that problem, the problem I fell in love with was the American family.
Yeah.
And from a very early point in my life, I've always wanted to create this symbiotic relationship between the American family and American capitalism. And how do I continue to
How you
fall
do
in
that.
love and find ways to do that? And so yeah, it's inherently fall in love with the problem. And I think if you have the action that goes with it, you'll do some really cool things at an early pace and pretty good clip.
Well, I think your point is pretty damn spot on. Is if you fall in love with the problem, then that's a passion of yours, and the passion comes through, and you're driven to solve it, as opposed to I want to do this because I'm going to make a ton of money.
Yeah.
You do it because there's something behind the veil that you may not want to expose to everybody. But when asked, you'll clearly explain to them why I want to solve this. And I think your commentary about I want to solve the problem that is the American family, it's probably going to turn people off until they listen to you.
Yeah.
And when you say, no, the American family is not a problem. I want the American family to thrive, and therefore I want to give this problem the best solution I can give it, which is proactive versus reactive. And I love that. I
Exactly.
think it's
Yeah.
perfect.
No, I
Well, thank you,
appreciate it.
man. This has been great.
This is as you said, you thought we were going to fill the whole time, but we definitely did that. So I really appreciate your opportunity to share this innovation that I'm cooking up with some really cool people, and I think we're going to have a long-term impact on this country and the American family as a whole.
Perfect. Great way to end it. Thank you, Devin. We'll talk to everybody on the next episode. Thanks.
Thanks.